your self-appointed host for today and every day, Monday through Friday, right here live at noon Texas time, and in the replay. Glad to have you. Today we're going to talk about reaching the world for Christ. And you know, I don't care what your particular eschatological view is, or your denomination, or any of that. We all are on board with the idea of reaching people with the gospel. If we don't do that, what good are we, right? So, with technology, we have seen some very interesting things happen, and I'm going to show you a little something here I want you to see, and then we'll explain it. This right here is a website called witnesstoall.com, and I just bundled it, so let me bring it back up. I want you to look at the bottom of this thing. Right here you see, in real time today, 192,000, and that the rest of it's just going up, gospel visits. What does that mean? Well, it gets even better because look at this. Reaching the world. Since 2004, we are almost, and I don't know if this will go quite quick enough. It'll happen today, but it may not happen during the broadcast. We're almost at 2 billion gospel visits at witnesstoall.com. And what does that all mean? Well, we've got someone here to explain it right now. Diedrich, who is an executive director and the chief experience officer at Global Media Outreach, globalmediaoutreach.com, is with us, and she's going to explain to us how we are using technology to reach the world for Christ. So very cool. You guys jump on in here. Comments are open. If you have any questions, you can throw them out there, and if they're good questions, I will pass them on. Michelle, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, and we picked a great day to talk, didn't we? Getting so close to 2 billion. It's crazy.
It's almost hard to comprehend. But so first of all, let's just start at the beginning. Explain exactly what this is and what it does.
Oh, wow. Well, Global Media Outreach actually started back in 2004. Now think way back then. And that was actually the first year that Google went public and started AdWords, where you could advertise on Google and people would see your ads and come in. So if you think way back then, even before people had their smartphones, their iPhones, that was when we got started. And the idea was, could we put the gospel online? What would people do? And we actually started, you remember that movie, Passion of the Christ, with Mel Gibson?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that movie was one of the first websites that we did, not for the movie itself, but putting the gospel around that movie. We had a partnership with them, and we thought, you know, when that movie comes out, people are going to have a lot of questions. And so we actually did the website, put the gospel on, and if people wanted to go to the official movie site, they could. And we put a way for people to respond to the gospel, to say, hey, I do want to follow Jesus, or I still have questions. And then we would respond to them, pray for them, tell them more about the gospel, tell them how to find a church, all of those things. We had no idea what was going to happen to see so many people come to know Jesus and have that relationship with him over the years. But that's how we got started. And so even today, we still have people that see our ads and go to a website and they see the gospel. We also are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, other platforms. And the whole idea is we want everyone to have multiple opportunities to know Jesus and have a relationship with him and accept salvation. And then we want to grow them in their faith and connect them to a Christian community, to a church. And it's a very simple vision that started way back when in 2004. And today, after all these years, we are, as you were showing the counter, we're going to cross 2 billion gospel presentations. That means that people have come to the website and seen the gospel presentation 2 billion times sometime this afternoon. We're not exactly sure what time, But it's been amazing to watch God start with one website. Now we have hundreds in multiple languages, and we have teams all over the world that respond to the people coming in their language.
Mm.
And so God has just taken this and grown it just mightily over the years. It's been amazing.
Okay, so I was kind of wondering that because I'm watching that number and I'm going, how in the world are they reaching that many people that fast? So you've got tons of websites in how many languages do you know off the top of your head?
Yes, we are actually in 13 languages, which that covers about 95% of the languages written on the internet. Obviously, it doesn't cover every language in the world, but when you think about what people write in and type in online, that covers the vast majority of them. And we have teams that we've built in the different countries to respond to people online and then help them get connected.
Okay, I want to ask you about that, but I want to back up a little bit. When you say you present the gospel, kind of what level do you go to, and what does that message look like? Because I know when I think of the gospel, I think of one thing, but I'm sure there's some slight nuances in what people think of in
Oh,
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. But really, when you think about the basics, and so I'll give you a great example. If you're familiar with Campus Crusade, the four spiritual laws,
Hmm.
that actually is our basic gospel presentation. So, what we do is when people search and they go online and they are typing into Google or other search engines different kinds of phrases or words that are around spiritual items, they will see our ads. And they might also just see our ads if they're on different websites or apps or on their phone. Depending on where they are, we're able to reach people that are spiritually open. And then when they click on that, and it's very direct. Of course, right now we're doing ads around the pandemic because so many people are afraid. They're asking questions about their identity. What happens if I get sick? What happens if I die? They're afraid about financial issues. And so they are really beginning to question and are spiritually open. And so we'll put ads out there that talk about the peace that you can have in Jesus. And they will click on that and then go to the gospel presentation. And then from there, they can indicate a decision. They can basically what you do in church, they can raise their hand and say, yes, I want to follow Jesus, or no, I don't. Or I still have questions and I want to talk to someone. They might even say, I'm already a Christian and I've seen this and now I want to know how I can grow in my faith. So we have different options, but all of those lead to a connection with a volunteer, what we call an online missionary. And then they can talk to them online through chat, through email, through messenger, and start that conversation and pray for them and answer their questions, and then even disciple them.
That's very cool. So I'm looking here at one of the websites actually on your sort of your banner website, the corporate website, if you will, globalmediaoutreach.com, and I see the Google search, and it goes to godlife.com. So I'm assuming that's one of your websites.
That is actually our main discipleship website. Of course, there is a gospel presentation on there. So if you go to godlife.com and you click Know God, that will bring up that gospel presentation. And of course, we have hundreds and hundreds of pages with gospel presentations on them in the different languages addressing the different issues that people are facing. All have the basic gospel within them. But we run people dealing with different things to get them there to read the gospel or
Yeah.
watch it. We have it on video as well.
Okay.
And so that's definitely one of them. Globalmediaoutreach.com is the ministry website. So if you want to know more about our ministry or how you can volunteer or give, that's where you would go.
Got it.
Most seekers would go to one of the God Life pages, or as I said, we have a ton of other ones, depending on where they're coming from. So they might not even know what global media outreach
Right.
is as
Right.
a seeker.
Right. So, and when they click that button on the bottom that says, "Did you pray this prayer?" Is that how they get on the counter, basically?
So that is the first line of, or the second line of the counter on indicated decisions. And that's why we call it an indicated decision.
Right.
You know, if you're sitting in church and an altar call is given or the gospel is presented, and then the pastor says, you know, let's pray. And for all of those that prayed that prayer, would you raise your hand? This is the online equivalent of that. And so for us, they're indicating a decision and what their heart is telling them. Only the Holy Spirit knows what happens after that. But that's where they have the opportunity to connect. And the first thing that our volunteer will do is go over that gospel presentation with them and make sure they understand what they were indicating and answer their questions and dive deeper.
Yeah, which is kind of the classical approach, just utilizing the technology, which
That's
is
right.
very, very cool. All right, so you mentioned a phrase, global missionaries, I think, is that what you called them?
Online missionaries.
Online missionaries. Online
Uh-huh.
missionaries. What is that, and how does one become an online missionary?
That is a great question. I think, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up and going to church, and thinking about how can I serve, well, for the church I went in, frankly, for women, you had a couple of options, right? You could teach children. You could I could play the piano. My mom was the pianist in the church, or you could be a missionary. And my calling was a little different than that. But of course, I always had a heart for missions work. And what we provide with this opportunity is people just like you and I, Christians who want to serve in some way, to be a volunteer without having to leave their home. And so that's what our online missionaries are. They are Christians just like you and I who want to serve and want to share Jesus. And this gives them an opportunity to do it. And what's amazing about it is the range of people that have volunteered. Would you believe we have volunteers that are 97 years old?
Hmm.
Little Edith Hicks is one of them. And we have volunteers, of course, that are younger. We have people that would love to be able to go on mission trips, but they can't. Perhaps they're dealing with a disability, so they can't leave their home, or they can't travel very well, or they can't do local missions. So this is really an incredible opportunity for just about any Christian to be able to serve, and it takes away a lot of the barriers, especially for people who might not be as comfortable yet sharing face to face. The online opportunity gives them a chance to grow in their own faith. Our volunteers actually tell us that a lot of them have been able to grow in sharing Jesus by sharing Jesus online. They feel more comfortable talking to their neighbors,
Sure.
talking to their friends and their coworkers. So it really is great all the way around.
Sure. I want to show that real quick for people that might be interested. If you go to globalmediaoutreach.com and click on Get Involved, um, then it will take you to a page where you can volunteer and learn more right there. So of course you can donate. What is let's see, the okay, join the journey has to give monthly. So obviously you guys are using financial support. Are you underwritten by any particular group, or is it strictly one-off donors that support you?
It is strictly, we are completely a nonprofit. We're not underwritten by anyone. We don't sell anything. We don't have any programs that we charge for. All of our materials for seekers are free.
Hmm.
And so we do depend completely on individual donations.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, one of the things that may be a little difficult with an online ministry, in a sense, the online gospel, is the lack of personal connection. And so you mentioned obviously that your online missionaries actually talk people through it. But what about the face to face? Do you have you ever met anyone that was impacted directly by this outreach?
Well, let me start out by addressing the first issue. And certainly that is something we have heard over the years. And I would say it's interesting right now because, of course, you're not able to go to church. You're having to go to church online.
Right.
And so would you say that you are not by watching the services online, and maybe you have online chat during the services or after the services where you can pray one-on-one with someone, or chat about the sermon, get your questions answered. Would you say that you are not growing in that sense? I think what's happening with the pandemic is opening up a lot of eyes for how powerful this medium is. And it's a tool. Technology is just a tool, and God uses whatever tools are out there to reach the world. And that's what is so great about this, especially right now. Churches are actually seeing, in many cases, more people coming online and watching their sermons and participating and engaging than they had been perhaps on Sunday, because you have the ability to have people from all over the world see your services. And so I think it's opening the eyes of a lot of churches that this is a game changer. And of course, we've been doing this for 15 years, so we've seen it continue to grow, especially as the technology has gotten easier to use and cheaper to use. Everyone has a cell phone now. So in terms of access, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that it does. It allows us to go where missionaries can't go.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about where we try to send missionaries, and this is not a great statistic. This is a disappointing statistic. 98% of the missions funding that goes out to the world goes out to about 2% of the world. And most of it is to countries that have already gotten the message of Jesus. And you think about those numbers and you wonder, why is that? And part of that is because those are the countries where it's easier to get to.
Sure.
And so if we can get to countries that haven't heard the name Jesus, and if we can do that in a safe and secure way online, God is using that, and He is allowing us to serve people that might never have heard the gospel any other way, including discipling them. And I'll give you one example from my own experience. There was a guy, and his name was Anan, and he lived in Pakistan. He actually was on an oil rig, but he was from India. But because he was doing this job, he only got to see his family once or twice a year, very isolated, but had internet. And he found Jesus online through one of our websites and started to go into one of my chat Bible studies. So I had a group that I was working with, people all over the world, and we would meet online each week and chat and go through these Bible studies. And I remember him saying early on, and this really hit me of the power of this. He said, you are just about the only Christian that I know, because here he is in a very Muslim country, and he did not feel safe, certainly trying to reach out to others at the time. And so we had that connection. I never met him face to face. The likelihood of me going to Pakistan,
Right.
very low. Actually, that's one of those things where you pray, Lord, I send me, but don't send me there. You know what I mean? And so I will probably never see his face this side of heaven.
Yeah.
But I'll see him in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
And know that impact is there. And I can tell you it is real, and you can serve. I'll share one more story with you to say, do you have to be face to face? I want to tell you about a young woman named Sarah Coiner, who was one of our community leaders. She has cerebral palsy. She can't feed herself. She can't dress herself. She can't speak. She uses a computer with a stylus on her head. It's like a helmet that allows her to type because of the difficulty controlling her muscle movements. But she can use that to type, and she is serving people for Jesus. She is ministering. She is discipling people.
Wow.
Now imagine her trying to do that face to face and the challenges that she was faced. But God is using her. She wanted so much to be a missionary, but she's in a wheelchair. She can't get out. I mean, if her mother is taking her, but she can't communicate through physical voice. So I would never say that is not
No, it's amazing.
I'm not even
Yeah.
sure what the words are, but it's that is real missions work, and God is using people like her all over the world.
Yeah. Well, there's this guy that I think we both have heard of who ministered to uh, quite a few people face to face, but his letters have reached far more than his face to face missions ever did. And that guy named Paul. So I
Absolutely.
think there's some precedent for reaching people through the written word, and the fact that technology is being used to do it is amazing. And I'll also tell you this: I've been, uh, well, wow, 25, 30 years ago to some remote places in Africa, and when I went just a few years ago to Angola, um, it was interesting because you get out in the middle of nowhere, and there's no electricity, no running water. Um, Maybe the only thing you're going to get is cell phone service, and so you would see these
Right.
people in these villages with cell phones. Other places like Cambodia, I was in, we're out in again a remote village, no running water, no electricity, but the chief in every village had a cell phone because they've got pretty good coverage over there. So the way to reach people is through the internet right now, to reach mass amounts of people. And I thought it was interesting in Cambodia because, if you reach the chief of the village, guess what? You have an impact on that entire village. So the fact that you've got apps and websites and ads and all that kind of stuff, you're reaching. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Frankly, I'd be, if you step back and look at it, I'd be very disappointed if we weren't doing this as Christians. So it's exciting to see that you guys are right at the front of this and doing it. Again, we're talking, if you dropped in late, we're talking to Michelle Diedrich, who is one of the executive directors, the chief experience officer at Global Media Outreach. And let's
That's a
check.
mouthful.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to even just ask you what that means here in a second, but I want to see the counter. Okay. Oh, no, we're at 9:43. Okay, so I was hoping, we might get lucky, but it'll be a little bit later this afternoon before we hit 2 billion gospel visits around the world. What is the chief experience officer, and how did you land this gig? This is a great gig.
Well, I was in the software industry, for about 15 years at startups and enterprise software companies. And then I met the founder, Walt Wilson. We were living in California, in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, where all the tech companies were. And I met Walt, and he began to share his vision. And it was literally like a light bulb went off over my head. And I thought, wait a minute. So you can, with this model, reach people at their point of need. I don't know about you, but I grew up, we'd go door to door, we'd go to the coffee houses and share Jesus. These people are coming to us, and they are clicking when they are ready and open spiritually. And when he started explaining that, I thought, oh, wow, I would love to volunteer. So I started out volunteering and helping with a website, and it grew from there. That was when the ministry had just gotten started. And I'm not a numbers person. We keep looking at the 2 billion, which is so amazing. But what got me was the opportunity to share Jesus every single day with people all over the world. That was what I thought was so amazing, to be able to do that. And I honestly did not think we would ever get to this point. I just didn't have that. I thought, oh, this is great. This is nice. I don't know what's going to happen. But we reached a point where we were crossing 1 million people a day. And on that first time we did that, that's when I went, wow, this God's going to do this. God's going to use this and reach billions of people all over the world. And that's exactly what's happened. And especially right now, when you think about with the pandemic, I was reading a Wall Street Journal article on Saturday. It just came out. And it was talking about in March that Google searches for prayer had just skyrocketed. There's a tool called Google Trends, and you can see what people are searching for, what they're typing in, what's trending up, what's trending down. It had just gone insane. And then Pew actually did a survey in March as well that showed that more than half of Americans had prayed for an end to the coronavirus. So it actually said, yes, I have prayed for this. So we're at a time where people are really hurting. They are afraid. There's depression, anxiety of what's going to happen. And so it's just an amazing time for us to be able to reach them. And our comment about sort of the whole scenario is, if the church is not there, when people are going online, and you can find a lot of stuff online, not good stuff. So if the church is not there, when I'm talking about the church, I mean us as Christians, if we're not there to show them Jesus, what are they going to find online? And
Well,
so if
we know the answer to that.
that's right. That's right. And now more than ever, because there's no distractions, sports hasn't really gotten started. You can't really go to restaurants much yet, and depending on where you are in the country. So they're online, they're in a tough situation, and they're isolated. And so they are thinking about what their lives mean and who they are and what's going to happen. So this is the time to reach them.
It is, and generationally, there's a term that you and I know of called channel surfing. That doesn't mean anything to anyone under 30. They don't do that. In fact, I have 4 kids, 2 son-in-law, daughter-in-law, and a almost daughter-in-law, and I swear, they'll be watching TV, and while they're watching TV, they're doing this, and I'm like, you're not watching the movie with us. Come on now. But that's where they're getting everything. So there's a generational shift that's already happened towards that. So it's important to be there. I'm curious about this, because you talked about going into places that are remote, but you're also going into places that are hostile to Christianity, where if you show up at their border saying, "Hi, I'm a missionary, I'm going to share the gospel with your people," they're going to either send you home or worse. Are you seeing some things from maybe inside some countries that are closed off from a governmental standpoint to the gospel, but the people are anxious and hungry to learn?
Oh, certainly. I mean, when you think about some of the countries, whether it's a heavily Muslim country or countries like China, where they are isolated from a spiritual perspective, or searching and exploring would be seen as dangerous. Mm-hmm. The internet gives them a safe place oftentimes to do that exploration, and because of the security we have set up on our systems, when they engage with us, they kind of go into a middle black box. So they're not seeing the personal information, of an online missionary, and the online missionary is not seeing their email address. So it's a very secure way, and they feel very comfortable sharing and engaging. And what we're finding is this, we call it anonymous intimacy, where they can ask questions. They will share things they can't share with others. And it really provides a safe space for them to find out about Jesus. And many of them are coming, they've had a dream, they've had a vision. They don't know what it means. They go online to figure that out, and they end up seeing one of our ads and getting connected.
When you say they've had dreams or visions, I suspect you're talking heavily in Muslim countries, because I'm hearing those reports all the time.
Yes, very true. And also, it's important to use the channels that they use in those countries. We find there are certain apps that more countries use than others. You might see WeChat for China or WhatsApp for Latin America and for India. And so it's important that we not only reach people, but we reach them in the channel that they want to communicate through.
That's really fascinating. All right. Any other opportunities what do you ask people to do? So you're talking to a Christian audience right now, and
right.
A lot of them are going, "Wow, that's really cool. I'm excited that they're doing that." What do you ask from them?
I would say 3 things. First of all, pray. People need Jesus so badly. They're desperate for him. And so pray that we can continue to meet people at their point of need when they need Jesus, and share that with him. So praying for the ministry would be wonderful. The second thing is to get involved. Go to globalmediaoutreach.com. And I know that's a mouthful, Global Media Outreach. That sort of describes what we do, but it is a mouthful. But go to the website and get involved. But even if you don't, if you can't volunteer right now or can't give, you can share with others through your own Facebook pages, through your Instagram accounts, all of those social media platforms where you have a voice, remembering that whatever you say, even though it's online, has an impact. So you can share what Jesus has done for you to your friends and neighbors, and who knows where that will get picked up, where others will see that. So use your own opportunities. Even if you can't work with us today, those opportunities are there. So those are the three things I would say to do.
That is awesome. Michelle Diedrich, Global Media Outreach Online, or globalmediaoutreach.com. Appreciate everything that you do. Appreciate just grabbing hold of the technology, using your talents and skills to lead people to Christ. Pretty amazing thing going on. The rest of you, I'm gonna hit this one more time. Sorry. 1 point. Oh, no, okay.
We're so close, so close.
Yeah, and
We're thinking in a couple of hours, about 3:45 Central, I believe. That's where we're calculating, depending, we look at like how many per hour.
Right.
So we're thinking somewhere around there.
So, and again, I agree with you and your point that it's not about some random number, but it is kind of exciting to say
It's neat.
2 billion people. It's just kind of fun. Because, and here's the great thing about it. The amazing thing about it is heaven rejoices when one person comes to Christ. One. Heaven rejoices. I mean, you guys are lighting up heaven.
It is, with so much darkness in the world, and I know so many people are struggling right now and they feel like it is very dark, but when you look at the map and see the lights, God is bringing light into the darkness all over the world.
That is amazing. Michelle Diedrich from Global Media Outreach, we appreciate your time and appreciate what you're doing, and all you guys out there watching. Share what's going on. You can do it wherever you're at, whatever platform you're watching on, and subscribe if you haven't, follow depending on your platform, and let's just celebrate today as people come to Christ and hear the gospel all over the world, and you can get involved, so do that. Thanks again for joining us on Live Today Live. We will see you again tomorrow and every day live here at noon.
The God of revival. The very atmosphere seems to be charged with the power of Almighty God.